Welcome to Truth and Company Boxing Podcast, to another random 20 questions. I'm your host, John the Truth Dioria, and today's guest is former two-time world champion, Kelly the Ghost Pavlik. How you doing, Kelly?
Doing good. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I appreciate you taking time to come on. Just to give me a quick rundown for some of the fans that don't know what you're doing now, if you even are involved in the sport of boxing at all, just kind of give me a rundown of what's going on with you in boxing.
Yeah, actually getting ready to head to the gym now, my new gym. I'm in the process of opening the boxing gym. It actually opens tomorrow. It's been a 4-month process because of time. I had to get it get the renovation done, add stuff to it. But I have another gym in a different county where I have my youth program, and plus it's a for-profit, but I run my charity out of there too. And I have 40 some kids in that program, and I'm training all day long. I thought it would be easier once school started, but I got 5 to 6 kids right now that are homeschool. So I pretty much don't have time to get out of there to get to the new gym. Weekends are the only time I get. Also, I do a lot of fundraising events for it. I just had one last week on a Friday, an amateur boxing show I put on. So, between strength conditioning, boxing training, the business parts of owning 2 gyms, and then, also in the process of trying to get 3 more going, and just the charitable organization itself with a 501c3 is time consuming and all over the place, trying to network with politicians and different people to get the fundings. So pretty busy.
You're trying to get 3 more gyms open?
Oh yeah. So what my charity, what the main goal is, the vision is to have one main facility in a town, or just say the county, one main facility where everybody can go to, and then the surrounding areas that are too far out where the kids won't be able to come, being able to take the services to them with hubs, put hubs in those areas. So
okay. And now all these gyms will be in Ohio, right?
Yes. And then the overall picture is eventually to go throughout Ohio, and then we'll see from there as it goes. I don't want to spread myself too thin. Like right now, I'm pretty much wearing all different hats for different things going on until this is up and running. And I think I think it's moving, and once it gets rolling, it'll be a little bit easier.
Yeah, and you're actually a guy that actually uses social media quite a bit for you and your training and the gyms and everything else, because for people that don't know that this new generation that's going on TikTok and Instagram and stuff, you actually take time to do instructional videos. I mean, you're super patient as a coach. You break down everything to the least detailed basics for anybody that doesn't even have any boxing skills, never even tried it. They could actually learn just off your videos, I think, to some degree anyways, and then make their way into a gym. So talk to me about that a little bit, why you've taken time to put these videos on Instagram and TikTok.
A lot of people are like, man, you could charge for that, or blah, 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 and different things. Listen, put them out there. I put out the basics, the very learning basics. I hate to say it, but especially in like this area, it's not taught. There's a lot of gyms, and it's just not taught. And I think it's important for for boxing itself, all the kids, and with social media, it allows you to get out past my hometown, Youngstown, right, and giving them the basics and trying to help them a little bit. So even if they go to their local trainer and say, hey, I seen this from Kelly Pavlik on TikTok or Instagram, the trainer can work off of that from there too if they're not very knowledgeable. Believe me when I tell you, a lot of boxing trainers are not. It's just, I hate to say it, but a lot of these kids, I get a lot of fighters that come to me now that are still early on in their career, but I have to kind of like go back over to the beginning and work on the basic fundamentals with them, because it's a huge part that just some trainers never learned, and that they just rather hurry up, go open a boxing gym, and think that there's money involved in it, and there's not. So I take it to the social media. Everything I'm showing on there, the reason that I do it and it's free is because it's just the basics. There is not enough time in the world for me to really get into the advanced part with fighters that may have 40 amateur fights and tournaments or even pro fights and get into the nitty gritty of breaking down, different things. So just be quick, simple, put out the basics for the beginners or the people that are looking, or even the people that want to box but not looking to box for like self-defense or competition, but to lose weight. So they still could also say, you know what, I'm losing weight and getting a great workout and learning a little bit.
Okay. So you ready for these 20 random questions?
I think I am.
Okay. Question 1. How did you get involved in the sport of boxing?
I'm 41, so growing up as a kid, there was a lot of karate movies. There was karate, all the Karate Kids and Kickboxer and No Retreat, No Surrender. So, long story short, I had 2 older brothers that boxed a little bit. They played all other sports. I did too. I was active. I was outside, always playing football, baseball, basketball. But I loved the fighting part. I wanted to do martial arts. Well, martial arts didn't really work out. A little boring, not being mean, but just a little boring with some of the standard martial arts, and it was expensive. So we found a boxing gym. My older brothers were boxing, and my buddy Louie, and I kind of just kept begging my parents to let me go, and they didn't really want me in boxing, but eventually they gave in, and from there it was history.
Okay. Question 2. What boxers have inspired you in your boxing career?
And that's another one with me. It's a little weird. As a kid, a lot of kids, sports stars in general. You had Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen. People would have posters or Oscar De La Hoya. I never had like a fighter that I admired or would, put posters up. But I was just a fan overall of the sport, even at a young age. So I kind of just learned from everyone that was on TV. I would pick something from, if it was, and I say Oscar because I was still fairly young when Oscar was coming up in the pros. But like Oscar, or I would go back find some footage of like Sugar Ray Leonard or whoever was fighting at that time that was a champion. I would watch and kind of just learn. Even guys in the gym, we had some local pros, and I would watch them and kind of just dissect what they were doing and take what worked and throw out what didn't work.
Okay. Question 3. Do you have any hobbies outside the sport of boxing?
I would say strength conditioning is one of them. Coaching that, I was always big with that. Even coming up as a young kid, being in gyms, I always had an interest in strength conditioning. Like I used to do a lot on my own. I would go kind of like even early on in my career, if I felt like I wasn't getting enough of something at the boxing, or if my trainers weren't showing me, I would kind of go. I had a school behind my house, and I would just go up there in the field and just work on things all day long, trying to make myself, faster or more agile. Not really. I mean, it's hard for me right now. It's kind of on the spot, but yeah, I guess I have a handful of hobbies, but nothing keeps my attention for a long period of time.
Okay. Question 4. What advice do you give a kid that wants to become a boxer?
Boxing and mainly any combat, but especially boxing, it's such a brutal sport, physically, mentally. And then obviously as you advance, the business part of it is pretty brutal too. But the one thing is you got to take it serious, and you got to make sure that this is something that you absolutely want to do. It's not a sport or a hobby for a kid to get into if they're like, I just want to try it, because you could get hurt. Secondly, training. Make sure that you are in the best shape. It's not like other sports where you can call a timeout and say, you know what, I'm going to sit this play out. I'm not feeling, I'm tired. it's just you in there, and you got to make sure that you are in tip-top shape because all the talent in the world don't mean anything. Because once you start getting tired and you can't execute or utilize the skills that you got, everything goes out the window. So those are very important, and it sounds very basic, but it's the truth.
Okay. Question 5. What's the craziest or the funniest story that ever happened between you and a boxing fan?
Oh, geez. I don't know. Oh man, there's so many. I can't even. They're all kind of running together. The craziest thing. I've had people tell me that I should, remember them or know who they are. I guess I would say the one was I had a guy that came to the gym, and he was a big fan, and he wanted to get punched by me. So he came to the gym. He wanted to see what it was like to get hit. And this is just one off the top of my head. And so he got in the ring, and I was kind of like, I was looking at my trainer. I'm going, "Are you going to let this happen? Do you mind?" And long story short, it did end up happening, and I beat the crap out of the guy, because after he just didn't want to get hit, he wanted to spar and get hit, and see what it was like. And he learned pretty quickly what it was like. So I would say, for me, that was kind of crazy because a lot of times you hear fans that want to do it, but it just never happens. That was one case where he got what he wanted.
Yeah, that seems to be a common thread because I talked to Travis Kaufman, the heavyweight, and he had a similar situation where a guy came and wanted to give him $500 to spar with him. And the guy had no boxing experience. He just wanted to get punched by him.
Yeah. It's it's weird. I don't know. And this guy was he did very well for himself. He offered money too. We obviously didn't take it, should have. But he was I forget what he did or what type of doctor he was, but it was pretty advanced, and he made good money obviously doing it. And I just don't understand sometimes because I don't think people fully understand, and I guess that's probably where the curiosity came in. He wanted to just see what it was like, I guess.
Okay. Question 6. If you could have a boxing match with any fighter in history, alive or dead, who would your ultimate fight been against?
I'm not one that's big in the history like a lot of people, even though I respect it. I respect the history of sports and athletes and fighters. I guess for me, it would have been Morgan Hagler. He he's obviously an all-time great, and he's a great guy. I got to meet him, and I was fortunate to be able to do that with a legend, and super cool, super nice. I would say him because of the history behind it, though, where he's at on the list. Like when you mention middleweights, it's usually always Hagler, and I think it would have been just a great experience to see, what he had. I think because for me, I look at it, and most fighters would agree. He was a very small at that time, a very small middleweight in all reality. You know what I mean? Like he was short. He wasn't a real big. If you go back and watch his fights, he wasn't a real big power puncher or hard hitter. He was more of a like wear you down, beat you up for a handful of rounds. And I guess with the size, that being said, I'm just curious to see what big middleweight would that style still, people don't realize and understand that, size and strength play a big difference in the sport when somebody has an advantage there. So I guess there's just a lot of things, why I say Hagler. That would be one of the top guys that I would like to have fought.
Okay. Now, question 7. Now, I know you fought a lot of guys and you fought a lot of big names, but who is your favorite overall opponent to fight?
Martinez, I would have to say. You know, wasn't wasn't my night, and I would have if weight wasn't an issue, I would have fought him 5 times over. Um, just one of those fights, fun figuring out, tactical breakdown throughout the fight, figuring things out. To his movement. To me, he wasn't a big puncher, which sometimes in boxing, I know it sounds crazy, for a fighter to say that, but he didn't. I didn't have nothing much to worry about as far from that standpoint, but his boxing ability, made it fun to figure out and just different things like that. It was a, believe it or not, it was a fun fight till the ninth round with the cut. I hit the wall. I think the same outcome would have been no matter what if I was cut. And the cut wasn't what happened in that fight, but it was. Sergio was a fun fight because I had a lot of success there in the middle rounds too. And I think if a little bit of things were different going into that fight, I think the outcome was different. But overall, I think it was fun figuring out Sergio Martinez and being able to do what I was able to do in the middle rounds. And then, obviously what he did in the later rounds made it a very interesting and a very tactical fight where you had to constantly keep the strategical plan changed, round to round.
So do you guys, just off of that question, do you guys still have any type of personal relationship?
No, I've talked to one of his ex-managers. Sergio has nothing but great things to say about me. I have nothing but great things to say about Sergio and his boxing ability and his career. Sergio had a hell of a run there, one of the top. So
All right,
there's a handful of guys I still do talk to, a couple of times here and there. Like one is Scott Sigmund, and then the other is Bronco McCart. Who I fought him, and that was one of the fights that I didn't want to fight because I was, as a kid, kind of coming up watching Bronco. Not so much a kid like a young kid. I was active in my career. I was probably 15, 16 watching Bronco fight on USA Tuesday Night Fights, and it was I loved watching him. He was one of my favorite fighters. So when my agent called me and told me I was fighting Bronco McCart, I was like, damn, I don't want to fight this guy. So I talked to him a little bit now.
All right. Question 8. Tell me a professional boxer that you think someday is going to be a great trainer, a current boxer right now.
I think Crawford would be a great trainer. I think a kid like Mikey Garcia, who, he's not active no more, but he retired not too long ago. I think guys like that, because they seem like a student of the game. I think any fighter, elite fighter, world champion, has a lot of knowledge, and I'm not saying this because I wasn't, and now I train fighters. There is a difference, and I think you see now that these fighters that took the sport serious and now are involved are some of the top trainers in the sport. Robert Garcia, the Diaz brothers, Buddy McGirt, Freddie Roach was a fighter. Your Emmanuel Stewarts and guys like that. Not that they weren't great trainers. There is a difference, and people have to understand that there is a connection difference between a fighter and a trainer. I firsthand realized in fights, and I used to kind of go, well, that's, after the fight, I would watch the film of the fight, and I would go, no, there wasn't much tutoring going on or good advice being given, in between rounds. And you have to come to the point of realizing, or sometimes a trainer who may have had a couple smoker fights or a couple amateur fights and never had the pro, and they train, pro fighters, you hear them get frustrated. Well, you got to do this, you got to do that. As a fighter, you know what your trainer is telling you, and you know what the game plan was. But once you're in there, under the lights, and pro and amateurs is two different ball games. Shit ain't working, right? Like it's just not. And the trainer that's never been there and never been in had that experience, they don't know. And I don't care how many world champions they train or how much they watch boxing. That is kind of like in this social media era, it's a big problem because you have a lot of boxers that like, or a lot of boxing people that know everything, right, but don't know shit. And I think when it comes to training fighters, that's a huge part. You got to know, like, if I'm training a kid and I'm going, hey, listen, we worked on this and you're not doing it, and you're stepping this way, and if he looks at me and says, well, I know, but it's not working, or it's just, I can understand, I can relate, and at that point I can go up here quickly, say, okay, scratch it for right now, go out there this round, find what's comfortable, and then next round we'll have a new game plan, because you have the time in a pro fight too. And some trainers just don't know that connection. There's just having a fighter that was at elite level, but also a student of the game, because you do have some great fighters that just got by on their pure talent and ability, right? And never really focused much on the sport. But would I still take advice from them? Hell yeah, because they've been there and done that, right, at that level. But then you have some guys that really along the way were a student of the game and really broke down film for their fights and really were. And when their trainer told them, they kind of absorbed it and I would ask questions like, whatever trainer I had, okay, but why would you want me to do this? You know what I mean? And that goes a long way, and that's what makes a trainer succeed or excel as a boxing trainer, having the live experience and then also having the knowledge to add with it.
Okay. All right, question 9. If you had to spend 30 days in a jail cell, what comedian would you choose to be your cellmate?
Oh man, there's so many. I'm actually really starting to fall into that. YouTube, a lot of these guys. You got Shane Gillis, who I find is pretty damn funny. Rodney Dangerfield, I think, would have been great. Mitch Hedberg was a great comedian. If he was alive, I think that would have been classic to have been with him. I don't know. There's a bunch of them. Ron White's pretty good.
Yeah, I could actually see Ron White in a jail cell, though.
Yeah, I can see being in with Ron White, probably getting a couple more extra days in there. So.
All right, question 10. If the mayor of your city was willing to name something after you, what would you want named in your city after you?
Oh, I think the event center that I fought in and sold out 3 times. I think that would be pretty cool. It's called the Cavelli Center in Youngstown. I think that would be cool. You know what I mean? Just because of all the fights and the amount of money generated there.
Okay, then question 11. If you got to sit down with any former president, what president would you want to sit down and talk with?
Ooh. I guess to say, because I kind of talked with him a little bit. Some people, I haven't been through that many presidents, I guess, in my life yet. But I'd say Bill Clinton. I think there's a lot of interesting questions I would have for him. So,
all right. Question 12. If you got into a street fight with 3 guys, what 2 current Ohio boxers would you choose to be on your side to fight with?
Current. Oh, shit. Big Baby Anderson. He's a Toledo guy. Jared Anderson. And the only one off the top of my head right now, I'd probably say Montana Love out of Cleveland.
Okay. Question 13. Who is the hardest puncher you've ever faced in the ring in a fight or sparring?
Oh, hands down, Edison Miranda. Hands down. Guy just hit. Even his punches that were easy felt like 40-pound bricks hitting you. Everything. You just carried his. I carried his punches for 2 months after the fight.
Oh, Christ. Okay. Yeah. Question 14. If you could go back in time to tell your younger self some advice, what age would you go back to and what would you tell yourself?
I will go back to 18 and explain everything that's going to happen throughout your career. You know, the people coming in, who you're signing the contract, not so much the promotional company, but who you're signing the contract with, who's a part. Yeah, a lot of different things, a lot of different stipulations I would have in each contract. Yeah, pretty much that.
So basically, the understanding of the business of boxing.
Yeah, and that's, like I said, I was very fortunate in my career. With some of the people I kept involved, the promotional company. The amount I made good amount in my fights. Able to be where I'm at today. Retired. Doing projects and owning businesses. I don't regret some of that, but some of the things that were involved in and some of the other avenues that there was out there, and now seeing, especially with just the fighters recently, simple things, even some as far as commentating and being involved in the sport, and kind of like working your way that way, even though it was a little different when I was fighting and when I was at the top. But now you see a lot of these guys, a career after boxing too, as far as being involved with, like, commentating and different things like that, setting myself up that way.
Okay. Let's see. Question 15. When you won your first world title, how did you celebrate?
How long?
No, how did you celebrate?
Oh, the family came home, hung with them, obviously went out a little bit and had fun and lived it up. Yeah, so it was just everything during that period. Everything was going so fast, living in a small city, small town. And yeah, the celebrations kind of went on for like 4 days. So I don't know if anybody slept.
Okay. Question 16. What animal are you afraid of?
Man, there's a couple of them out there, to be honest with you, but I'm not like to the point of, I would say coyotes, because that's a real issue I got at my house. Them, and they don't fight solo. They come with a bunch of homies and they attack. And I got pets and stuff. I would say coyotes, and a bear. I would fear running into a bear and hiking or just going on somewhere on vacation and being out and running into a bear. Like, because sometimes my wife likes to go to those places that are. She always talks about going like down to Tennessee where they have like the cabins and it's kind of like in the wooded areas, and I always picture like I you got the boxer that mentality, like, I'm tough, I can probably punch it, but you're talking about a bear, you know what I mean? I think would there ain't nothing. I don't care if you're Brian Shaw, if you're a world strongest man, 400 pounds, you're not doing anything, and so that's kind of fearful.
Okay. Question 17. Do you believe in ghosts and aliens?
I do. Actually, me and my son been watching not Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures. We've been watching that a lot, and I do believe in it. I've actually done some ghost hunting myself locally with some people that do it. It's interesting, and I was never a big believer of aliens until I kind of, as you get older, you start thinking a little more. You venture out a little farther and go, well, planets have evolved. There's planets out there. There's forms of life. The galaxy is so big. Who knows what's really fully all out there? And then you hear like the Area 51, and you see some of these things, and then why is it so secretive? What's there that they don't want people to know? Or you're not allowed to be around it. Just a lot of questions. So I do believe that there's something. So yeah, I do. I guess to say if I had to, yeah, I'm a believer.
Okay. Question 18. Did you have any boxing superstitions when you fought?
I did. I forget what that's called. I had a guy give it to me, and this was a superstition that actually came after I won the title. Because I got it for the title. It was whatever the priest used as like the marker and the gospel. You know, like when they read it, the gospel.
Oh, like a highlighter?
Yeah, as they wear it around the neck, scabula or something like that.
Oh,
So I had that. I would wear that every fight after. And another big one was, especially once I started my pro career, I had like 3 different quartermen, and the quartermen would go with me the night before the fight, like after the weigh-ins and everything, and I would go watch a movie. We went to the movie theater, watch a movie, usually a comedy that was out. I didn't want to watch anything that was serious or intense. I kind of wanted to laugh a little bit and clear my head, so I would go to a movie the night before a fight.
oh, okay. Question 19. If you could meet any infamous person from history, who would you want to meet?
Oh man. I guess right now, at the top of my head, I would say George Washington, because if you look at some of the stuff that guy went through, it almost makes you believe, like, believe in destiny too. You know what I mean? Just before the United States was even, he was even the first president of the United States. Some of the things he did through battle and how he, some of the shots. I think I was reading one thing on there where, his not almost like a cape, he got shot at and they missed, and there was like 13 bullet holes through the cape. Just makes you think. It was interesting, the country, what his vision was when starting, the United States. And I guess off the top of my head right now, I'm sure there's a lot more people that I would rather talk to, but that's the first one I can think of as far as in history.
Okay. All right. Question 20. Your last question. How do you inspire other people?
I don't know. I don't aim to do that. I don't think that's. A lot of people may think I'm wrong for this. I don't think it's anyone's. It's not my goal, because it's a lot to take on and it's a lot to put on a person's self. Is trying to inspire or be a role model. I think people get it wrong. I think a lot of people in sports, when a kid comes up in sports, believe me when I tell you, like 99% of them are coming up to just be successful and get out of what they're in the current situation. I forget the stats on it, so I don't want to throw them out there, but how many kids come from poverty in sports, and so I could say this, like for most of that kid's sporting career, their goal is how they're going to get to the next gym to work out, how they're going to eat, what they're going to do, and then also becoming the best at the sport that they're currently involved in. So going in as a role, I'm putting that in your head. It's a lot to put on somebody because things happen in their life, right? So for part of it, you're a role model, you're inspiring people, and then you live your own life like everybody else does, and then something happens and you're not a role model, you're not inspiring kids. So it's a lot, you know what I mean? But at the same time now, it's also a good thing, because if you could inspire them, then you're touching the life of a kid. You know what I mean? You're helping them, and you're also inspiring them. I think when it comes naturally and you don't do it because you want the attention for doing it, I think it means more. It means more to the person, and it means more to other people because they can see. So I guess now, like how I'm inspiring people, it's not me doing it to do it because I wanted to say, hey, look, I'm doing charitable work or I'm inspiring a kid. I'm doing it because it's a goal of, for me also, is how can I make this kid better? How can I make this kid better? Whether it's academically, which I'm not a scholar, but I'm going to have the programs in my charitable organization. The services will be able to be provided to the kid. Counseling is going to be a part of my one of my programs in my charitable organization.
strength conditioning, and then obviously one location will have boxing. And if all those together, and then it's keeping a lot of the kids off the streets for 2 to 3 hours a day, maybe sometimes 4. Just doing that alone is a big help, but being able to add the services that I'm going to be providing is going to be very beneficial. And to me, I think that's something that could inspire people throughout the country, throughout the world, to kind of get involved with the youth like that, because that's a big part of getting a kid to come up and stay out of trouble, find the right route where he could be successful. It don't have to be a world champion athlete, you know what I mean, or a professional athlete. It could be somebody who goes to work 9 hours a day, a good job, and is able to provide for his family and be there. Just like the keys to that, and being able to provide those type of services is a big thing. And if it inspires people up from that point, that's a great thing. But for me, it's not going out there to inspire people. I'm doing it to help. You know what I mean? To help the youth right now. And if that comes along with it, then it's great.
Okay. Well, listen, Kelly, I appreciate you taking time this morning, man, to come on and do the random 20 questions. I hope you enjoyed yourself. If you got anything to say to your fans or anybody out there, go ahead.
Oh, hey, just thanks for always being a fan and supporting. And hopefully, sometime here shortly we can get back on. Maybe after one of the big fights.
All right. Hold on. And the truth has spoken.